Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. It is Monday, December 16th, 2019. We've got your top headlines, trending topics, and what we're working on for you right now ahead of our 6 p.m. What Matters Most, 7 p.m. Front Row, and 11 p.m. What's Next TV shows. And it is definitely not a Victory Monday. First up, we're going to be bringing 3 News sports analyst Ben Axelrod on to talk to us about what happened on Sunday in the loss to the Arizona Cardinals and what some Browns players are reportedly heard saying to the Cardinals sidelines. We've also got a poll up on WKYC.com/vote now so you can weigh in on should Freddie Kitchens be the Browns head coach next season. Then I'm going to tell you about a new phenomenon that has landed here in Cleveland, an Instagram museum. If you don't know what that is, we do have one here now, and it's called Winter Wonder Cleveland. And then Brandon Simmons will be joining us to tell you the latest on the Hyperloop with that feasibility study that just came out, an 18-month study, and what he has to say about that, before I let you know what's going on with the NBC holiday lineup tonight. All right, now we're going to bring in 3 News sports analyst Ben Axelrod to talk about that 38-24 loss to the Cardinals last night. Thanks for joining us, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Sorry to set you up with such a downer there. But the number one story on our site right now is what some Browns players are reportedly have said to the Cardinals sideline. What's going on there?
This came out about an hour or so ago. Mike Silver, who works for the NFL Network and NFL.com, he sent out a tweet that was kind of a follow-up on the heated exchange between Jarvis Landry and Freddie Kitchens that happened in the fourth quarter of the game yesterday. And his tweet said that multiple Browns players, including Jarvis Landry, were yelling to the Cardinals sideline, "Come get me," which is a reference to Odell Beckham Jr. Reportedly telling opposing players and opposing coaches in October, "Come get me," as in "come get me" from the Cleveland Browns. So that's not good. That's
no.
Yesterday's loss was bad enough for the Browns. You lose by 2 touchdowns to a 3-win football team while your playoff hopes were still very much alive. That's really not good, and really kind of speaks to this idea that Freddie Kitchens has lost this locker room and lost this roster.
And, I was really surprised to hear what Freddie Kitchens had to say in response to Jarvis Landry being seen having that heated exchange with him on the sideline.
Yeah, both of them, kind of downplayed it. Jarvis said basically that he was saying, "I want the ball," and he felt like he hadn't been targeted since the first quarter. And, he's been having a great season or a pretty good season. And yesterday, though, was one of his least productive games of the season, if not his least productive game. So he was just saying, "Hey, I want the ball. I felt like that was a spot I should have gotten the ball with, really the game on the line as far as the Browns' last chance." And, Freddie backed his player, said, I like Jarvis Landry. I like his fire. I like him as a player. He embodies everything I like in a football player. So they kind of, wrote it off as much ado about nothing. But, if Mike Silver's report is believed to be correct, and, this is a guy who works for the NFL. You don't just make up reports like that.
Right.
That says a lot about what's going on behind the scenes in Berea right now.
Sounds like a lot of drama. I mean, we can see the drama. It doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
And a lot of potentially unhappy players on the Browns. And, to make matters worse, the Steelers actually lost.
Yeah.
So that would have been beneficial, right, to our playoff chances had we been able to pull this out?
Yeah, I mean, the Browns really, as they haven't controlled their own destiny since they lost to Pittsburgh, but the way this thing has set up, they were going to have to upset the Ravens this week, which is a really tall task. But had they won out, they fare pretty well in these tiebreakers versus Pittsburgh, or at least they did fare well against Pittsburgh and against Tennessee and Indianapolis as far as, the tiebreaker and what the wild card would be. But losing yesterday, I mean, their playoff chances are down to less than 1% right now. They basically, not only do the Browns need to win out, and the Steelers and Titans both need to lose out, they also need the Colts to win, to go exactly 2-1. If the Colts go 3-0, then they jump the Browns, and if they go 1-2, then the Browns lose a 3-team tiebreaker. So they need this to turn into a 4-way tie. It's a less than 1% chance of it happening.
And people have been, even before this, calling for maybe we should be considering whether Freddie Kitchens should be the head coach of the Browns. We do have that poll up on WKYC.com right now. As of right now, 89% of you are saying Freddie Kitchens should not be the head coach next season. 11% of you are saying yes.
Yeah, and it's really, from a public perception standpoint, trended this way for a lot of the season, and I think yesterday was just the breaking point. I mean, this team has had bad losses. We saw them get blown out in the opener. We saw them get blown out on Monday Night Football against the 49ers, saw them get blown out against the New England Patriots. That was not a good Cardinals team they were facing. I mean, even if the Browns were to lose that game, to lose it in the fashion that they did, multiple players in Berea today saying that players weren't giving it their all and weren't giving their 100%. For a team that was still very much alive in the wild card hunt, that's just alarming stuff, and speaks to the leadership in that locker room and really speaks to the coaching staff and the guys in charge of getting them ready for the games.
Well, it's definitely disappointing to see as a fan, I can tell you that. Ben, we appreciate you breaking it all down for us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. There was some joy in Cleveland this weekend, and I found it, and it was at the Winter Wonder Cleveland Instagram Museum pop-up. Now, if you're not aware of what an Instagram museum is, this is an installation. These are pop-up events where you can go and have these photo opportunities and really get that perfect Insta-worthy shot. So this really started on the coasts. There's the Museum of Ice Cream, which started in Los Angeles, and now there's one in New York City. It's got all these Instagram photo opportunities that are ice cream themed. There's also the Rose Mansion that happens seasonally in New York. There's Refinery 29's 29 rooms, and now Cleveland is hopping on that train, and we have Winter Wonder Cleveland. So at this location downtown, there are 14 different interactive photo and video opportunities, including a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation style Griswold looking house that's totally lit up with lights. Lots of opportunities there to get a great Instagram shot. And at special events, you can't even bring your dog to the space. This is located in the Ingenuity Labs co-creating space downtown, which is on Hamilton Avenue. Some of the other things that you can find there's a snow globe installation where you can actually get inside. And while I was there, people actually brought their professional photographer with them in order to get the perfect photos. Some of the other things that they have there, one backdrop that I thought was particularly beautiful is the Cleveland skyline. It has this swing with this cutout of the moon, and it is lit so beautifully. They also have these stands there where you can set up your phone. So if you don't bring a friend or you don't bring someone to take the photo for you, you can put your phone up in the stand, you can set the timer, and then you can get your beautiful photo that way. One that I particularly liked as well was one of those This is CLE stands. And of course, it had the Christmas Story leg lamp. We have the Christmas Story house here in Tremont, which is the house where the Christmas Story was filmed. So again, this is at the Ingenuity Labs, which is an artist co-creating space downtown. It's 5401 Hamilton Avenue. We have all of the ticketing information on our site. It's $14 for children, $26 for adults. You can also get a special happy hour rate of $19 if you can go a little bit earlier in the day. That's open now through January 17th. You can check that out. All right, now we're going to be talking with 3 News' Brandon Simmons about the Hyperloop, this feasibility study that just came out. 18 months in the works. Thanks for joining us, Brandon.
Hey, what's going on? So, we're talking about Hyperloop, which is a very cool project. Obviously, we're still a long way off. But this 18-month study that they've done was really just to figure out, is this something that's even possible? So they're saying it is. That's a good sign, right?
I think so, right?
Yeah, so they're saying it's possible. And a lot of people are wondering, why would you choose a place like Cleveland for a Hyperloop? I know it was a question that was asked, why not LA to San Francisco or something like that?
Washington, D.C. to New York.
Any of those, yeah. And there are projects that are going on where people are kind of deciding, hey, do we want to try one here? But in this region specifically, it kind of makes sense. So if you were to look at our country's interstate system, which really selfishly we think about just Clevelanders getting to Chicago or Chicagoans coming to Cleveland, but it's not really about that. It's about transporting goods and the entire transportation network across the United States.
Okay.
And when you look at how that works, a lot of the East Coast traffic that needs to get to the West Coast, it comes through Cleveland and Chicago. You got I-76 coming from the east. You got I-90 coming from New York. You got I-80. All of these different highways that come from the east, whether you're in Boston, New York, Philadelphia, all those major cities, it comes through Cleveland, and then that's the single route to Chicago before heading off to the West Coast. So that's why they're looking at putting a Hyperloop here, because there's so many goods that have to come through this area anyway.
So it's not really maybe as much about just us taking a weekend trip to Chicago?
No. And it's weird because it feels like it's being sold that way, where we're being told, hey, 30 minutes from Cleveland to Chicago. And that's great, but I think we have to understand there's a much bigger picture, the economic impact and those types of things. So that's why we're seeing so many businesses kind of jump on board and want to get involved, because they see the benefit economically as opposed to us who we're just looking at, all right, how fast can I get to Chicago? It's a little more than that.
So if they can get their goods and services between Cleveland and Chicago at a rate that's X amount faster, that's obviously better for them for their bottom line.
For sure. I mean, if you can take, it's normally a trip that takes 5.5 hours if you go by truck or whatever the case may be. So if you can take 5 hours out of that trip and make it into 30 minutes, that's going to save them a lot of money and time, of course, too. That's a big key, and we know time is money.
That's right. And so we're saying that it's possible, this feasibility report is saying it's possible that we could have this by December 2028?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. So what we're looking at now, the timeline would show us about 3 to 4 years of additional development. So we're talking about an environmental impact study. We're talking about the actual project development. So where are we putting stations, different stops along the way? What is the exact route we take? Right now there are 3 proposed routes. Some of them actually go under Lake Erie. Some of them are following along the turnpike system as it is currently. And then there's another route that's a straight shot route. So there are 3 different routes that they're still considering. All of those things have to go into it. Plus we're talking about safety, things like that. So a lot of people have concerns. I'm sure we'll see a lot of public meetings too about this as we move forward over the next few years. But yeah, if in 3 to 4 years, if everything goes as planned, let's say there's no hiccups, which that'll be tough, but if there's no hiccups, it'll take about 6 years to actually construct. And we're talking about $50 million per mile.
Per mile.
$50 million per mile. So a $25 billion project, obviously a huge undertaking for sure. But if everything goes well, December 2028 is the date they're telling us. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it. Thanks for that, Brandon. And of course, you can hear even more about that, and you can see that route specifically that he was talking about in the 6 p.m. What Matters Most broadcast tonight.
Of course, it'll be in there.
All right, and you can stream it on WKYC.com if you're not watching it over the air on 3 or in our 3 News app. Thanks, Brandon.
For sure.
Something else that you can watch tonight on Channel 3, if you are paying attention to our holiday lineup, you can watch Holiday with the Huffs tonight. That comes on from 10 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Derek and Julianne Hough will perform in their show-stopping musical and dance performances, and the duo's little friendly sibling rivalry will be on full display, competing and putting their own spin on holiday classics, sharing family traditions, and creating new ones for the seasons to come. That is tonight on 3 from 10 to 11 p.m., so make sure you tune in and catch that. All right, thank you for joining us here for 3 News Now today. We appreciate you being a part of the Facebook stream and also the YouTube stream and watching on WKYC.com and in our 3 News app. If you haven't yet already, please download our app so you can get these notifications, like our Facebook page, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/user/WKYCTV. While you're there on any of our videos, click the bell so that you get the notifications every single time we go live and you don't miss any of our 3 News Now afternoon updates. Thanks for joining us. I'm Stephanie Haney. We'll see you back tomorrow.